Morning, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of the Joint Archives Advisory Board. First item on your agenda is election of chairman. Do you have some nominations, please?
Yes, thank you, Fiona. I'd like to nominate Councillor Manningham.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other nominations? Thank you. Over to you then, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Fiona. Thank you, supporters. Okay, we can go to, well, first of all, before we go to item 2, just welcome everybody. Can I just break into the agenda just for the moment, please? Just welcome to everybody. I'm aware the board has, not met for a little while. On the other hand, I think we wouldn't be here unless I think we've all got more than a passing interest for the Joint Archive Service, for the great work that's been done, and for, if I say the exciting future, not without one or two challenges along the way that I think this board needs to address, and which some of our agenda will get into. For those who don't know me, I'm Mohan. Please do call me Mohan, Councillor Mohan of BCP Council, Cabinet Member for Tourism, Culture, Leisure, including, of course, Heritage, hence my role here. And just, what I'll do is maybe not do it right at the start, but maybe at some point in this meeting when we've got through the mandatory bits, please let's just do sort of like literally who we all are, so that we kind of, on the basis that we're going to carry it forward together, as a board, we're not strangers to each other, albeit, we're doing this in an online world. But I'm very keen to know sort of, that some of you I know, some I don't know, and maybe that's true of all of us. We know half the group. So let's sort of just see who we all are and so on. OK, but let me just hop then to item 2 then, the appointment of Vice Chair. Can I please nominate Councillor Jill Haynes as Vice Chair? And I think, is it for me to ask for a seconder, Fiona, or for yourself?
Well, I'm happy to second anyway.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Okay. So there's items 1 and 2 done. Thank you very much. Item number 3. Do we have any apologies, please, Fiona?
I haven't received any apologies.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice and easy. And item 4. Are there? Okay, we've got a hand up, Councillor Marion. Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether this is the appropriate moment, but I gather the protocol is that you will be chair only for this meeting, and then you'll swap to Jill in May, which seems to me a very inefficient way of doing things. And I would like to propose that you see through till May 22, and then the swapping kicks in.
Can I comment on that, please,
Okay.
Mohan?
Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, Jill.
It's not that simple because it's in the governance of the committee, and so what has happened is, unfortunately, due to a number of reasons, and it's not totally COVID related, we haven't had a meeting since the April of last year until now, which is why we're doing it this way round. So we could have done it the other way round, and I could have actually started now and gone for the year, because it's Dorset Council's term in the next financial year. But actually, following the governance rules, which we did take advice on, that's why we've done it this way. In truth, Mohan and I work really closely together. This isn't a competitive thing, and we're quite comfortable each other, I believe, in the way that this is working.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Marion, for your question. Thank you, Jill. I think it does. Jill, we've spoken. I think it is sort of, we've got the prospect of one meeting and then passing over and so on. I suppose this is one of the kind of the, okay, it's a quirk, and I think we just kind of, we live with it. That's fine. All right. Sorry. But what it does bring up in my mind, just kind of raise, have this moment sort of bring up a related point, which is not quite the same. The one about the casting of chair, and forgive me to sort of, it's only a few minutes after 10, isn't it, to dive into this, but I think this is the part of the agenda to put it into, is the one about casting vote of chair. And Jill, we spoke, Sam, you and I spoke a little bit about literally what do the rules say about this. Can you just confirm what the status is about chair casting vote or not casting vote?
I'm afraid. Sorry, I'm afraid. My apologies, Mohan. I need to go back to the. I need to go back to the Joint Archives Agreement and look at it.
Okay.
I think we probably need to take some legal advice on that one.
I
Apologies.
did ask legal informally on this, Mohan,
Okay.
and they said that the chair only had a single vote. So all of us only have a single vote. And so we
Okay.
could get to a deadlock situation, but we have to work our way around it. Let's hope we get to that stage.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's how I would wish to work it if I was in the chair anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jill, for that. I think we have to probably go forward on that basis, and just it's if it ends up we end up in a deadlock in a situation, I think we do have to work our way through it, and just I'm not trying to sort of anticipate what that might be, but I think just thinking of certain decisions that may be coming up, I think we will have to work to resolve potentially what certain things, certain decisions ahead of us, without the sort of the what's the word, without the instrument of literally a casting vote deciding it. Okay, but thank you. Okay, please could we have minuted that our understanding, having taken, thank you, Jill, legal advice, albeit informally, is that the chair goes forward with no casting vote on this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've done the declarations of interest. Sorry, did we do this? Declarations of interest, are there any at all? No, other than we're all generally interested in this subject. Number 5, minutes of the last meeting. Now, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes of the meeting, or do we need to pop those up and whiz through them?
It's, I think part of the problem is not all of us were there at those minutes. So
Indeed.
I need somebody who was there to actually take that forward. Matt Paul, were you there at that meeting?
I wasn't. The minutes seem correct to my memory, and I'm quite happy to propose those.
Okay. And do we have a seconder? Do we need one? Thank you, Councillor Richard Biggs. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. So the minutes are approved and seconded as a true record of the past meeting. Thank you. Okay. Public participation. Either Fiona or Sam, what do we want to cover in this particular item? Do we have any matters?
No, we haven't had any questions or statements received.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Fine. Okay. Right, item 7 then. The budget monitoring report 2019-20 and the budget going forward 21-22. I think this is where I'm handing over to Sam, is it?
It is, yes. I was just going to mention, Chairman, that you asked me to prepare a short presentation around the activities of the service, the general kind of makeup of it and so on. Do you want to look at that later?
Actually, no, what we'll do is can we do this? We've done some formalities. I would ask that we go into the intro presentation first, Sam. I think that's where we agreed.
Okay.
We'll put this in. So please, members, board members, with your permission, what I'd like to do is almost in between items 6 and 7 here, is that just to sort of calibrate us around one understanding about what the archive service is. I'm respectful of the fact some members will know a lot more than others, but just to literally have us on, on the same page, as it were, with what is the archive service. I asked Sam to put together a few bits to walk us through, to say this is it. Apologies if some of you are seeing it for the second time, even the third time, but I hope, given where we are, that it's useful to sort of ground us in one position on this. So we'll take this presentation. Obviously, any discussion, any questions from that are really welcome. And then when this is done, we'll carry on with item 7. I hope that's okay with everyone. Lisa, were you indicating to speak? Okay, fine. Thank you, Sam. Do carry on.
Thank you. I'm just going to attempt to share my screen. I hope it works.
Okay.
Right, hopefully everybody can see that. Is that on everybody's screen now, the front image? Great, okay.
Is that as big as it can be, Sam? If so,
it is, I'm afraid. That's my
right.
Full screen. So yes, apologies in advance for minuscule text and images if they do appear that way. What I will do is circulate these to everybody afterwards so that you can view them at your leisure if you wish to do so. And again, as you rightly pointed out, some of this will be old hat to many those present, perhaps not so new to, perhaps not so familiar to others. So I've put a group of slides together, which I will try and go through at reasonable speed, but happy to answer any questions if they occur. Just thought I'd start by pointing out the basic functions of the service, which I think at its most basic are two. We acquire and preserve archival material dating back over 1,000 years, but dating right as recently as the present. Something as archival, that's what we're interested in preserving and keeping. The flip side of that is providing access locally at Dorset History Centre, but obviously off-site too around the county in a variety of means, and online increasingly. The service was founded in 1955, and it's accredited by the National Archives as a place of deposit for public records, but by accreditation means it's basically met a series of fairly stringent standards to which they set and which they monitor. We've had a 6-year, we have accreditation lasts for 6 years, and we're due a light touch review in March of 2021. Thought I'd just sort of explain a little bit what archives are, because often it can cause confusion as to what exactly we're talking about here. The archive service isn't a museum. It doesn't collect objects generally. We leave that to our colleagues in the museum sector, but it's about recorded information. It's about anything that holds information which could be useful. That could be visual, or that could be textual, but it's about information in the main. It's information that's no longer required on a daily basis, but could have future uses or indeed vital uses. It's unique generally that there aren't second copies of most of what we hold. So if we lose it, it's gone for good. And that expression there, raw materials of history, I quite like, because it's fundamentally what it is. Without archives, you're not really going to be able to interpret and understand the past. Huge range of sources and varied subject matter, as I'm sure you're familiar with, and mixed media and format. So not just paper and parchment, although that's the predominant media. A lot of modern material too, audiovisual, and of course increasingly digital. And it's an obvious thing to say, I know, but we do only collect material relating to BCP and Dorset Council areas, the County of Dorset. I thought it'd be helpful just to the key record types, I suppose. The most fundamental one, I suppose, from a council perspective are the records of local government, dating back to 1888, the foundation of modern local government. It's the corporate memory, effectively, of those organisations. So every council structure that's existed in across Dorset during that period, we will have the records for. We should have the records for, and a lot of work going on currently around the two new unitary councils and their collation of records of importance, which are due to be transferred to us. Second type is community generated material, which is a very general heading. It could mean anything at all, from a large organisation, a business, an estate, religious institution, through to small community organisations, WIs, and the like. So a huge variety and types of record there. And the third type is public records. Those are government generated materials, organisations such as hospitals, courts, which are generated locally here in the county, but are held here for local access purposes. Why do we keep archives? It's a good question. Three key reasons I came up with. The first one being legal, the statutory functions of the service around the support provided for legal complaints and the mitigation of risks to the corporate entities, understanding what has happened in the past and being able to interrogate that. In terms of GDPR and freedom of information, very, very important functions. There's the push-pull, as the Information Commissioner described it, of GDPR. The right of the public to know on the one hand, but freedom of information and just confidentiality on the other. Rather, I've got those the wrong way around. But the confidentiality factor about keeping certain records safe and confidential and providing access to information where it's appropriate to do so. Evidential, demonstrating factually that something was recorded in a particular way, and being able to demonstrate that it is as it was at that particular point in time. So I would draw to your attention to things like baptisms, school records, adoption records, particular residency in a particular place at a particular time, land usage and property ownership, all of which come up frequently within the work of the service. And then thirdly, cultural heritage, what makes what makes Dorset, BCP and Dorset council areas, what they are, how have we developed, what are our collective memories and stories. You can't really generate narratives about the world we live in without, I would argue, access to collections such as these. For those of you with possibly fading memories now, thanks to the current pandemic, or possibly because you've never been to the History Centre, those are just some images of the building, the public areas, when in happier days we're able to populate them with users. So I hope to welcome you back in due course. And those users, what do they do when they come in? A list there on the right hand side of the key interest areas of those people that use the History Centre, whether that be on site or increasingly off site online. Family history once dominated, I think it's fair to say, the user base, but due to online access now through the likes of Ancestry and our catalogues, that has reduced significantly, and it is the other areas of interest there which have grown. People are coming on site to do more in-depth research, the stuff they can't do because digitisation hasn't happened, probably won't happen in the case of certain record types. So a lot of people are able to access records remotely now, but I still think there's a strong case for on-site access to particular types of records. A couple of slides now on some of our areas of work, some of the sort of functions that we perform. Collections management is really what happens with those records that sit in those 56,000 boxes of records held here at the History Centre, making them accessible. It's all very well taking things in, but they need to be catalogued, they need to be described so that people can find them again and use them for whatever purpose they have. Conservation on the top right there, if you can see that, is really about making fragile or almost unusable items accessible again, rendering them accessible, possibly for digitisation, or certainly so that they can be viewed and used again, and keeping the collections in the right environmental conditions so that they don't deteriorate and are kept safe. Digital preservation, really important and growing part of what we do. We all live we're in the digital environment now. The record of this meeting will form a digital record when it's completed. We're spending more of our time and trying to understand and work with digital collections. In many ways, I think we'd probably argue they're a lot more difficult to understand and to manage than paper and parchment, which, as long as you put it in the right conditions, will last for centuries. Digital, as I'm sure those of you that have tried to access 20-year-old files will probably agree, it's a lot more tricky. So we use a system called Preservica, which is an active digital preservation platform in which we've ingested now, I think, counting in the hundreds of collections, which will, as best we are able to guarantee, provide access to that material for generations to come. As you can see there on the right, those sort of cartoon images, it's very, very easy to lose digital content, and so we've been putting a lot of effort into trying to ensure that doesn't happen. Community engagement work rather links back to the whole question of access. You only acquire these collections and look after them and invest that time and energy in them if you want people to come in and use them, or to access them in whatever way is best for them. So there's a range of activities there listed, which I won't read out, but a lot of partnerships. We're very dependent on engagement with the wider community, and also about trying to increase the diversity of the collections that we hold. I mean, a lot of work's gone into building the collections in areas that populations, communities that aren't really represented currently within the collections held at the History Centre. Digital engagement, I know it's a very obvious thing to point out, and I've mentioned it already, but just to say what an important part of our work that now forms. Our catalogue on the bottom right there has over 350,000 entries, and Ancestry on the bottom left has around 2.5 million page impressions on it annually. It's a growing area of work for us as well, and there's some quite interesting and exciting opportunities for us using a new platform we've acquired called Apexio, which will allow us to make more visual material available, and to use, I mean, long-standing ambition of ours is to use digital mapping as a form of access to collections rather than, say, catalogues. Volunteering, up until the point of the pandemic striking, essential part of what we do. We couldn't really get done, you know, all that we do by any means without the help of volunteer aid. As you can see there, as I've said, increasing range of roles that volunteers have filled at the History Centre, and we felt it a good idea to apply for, and we achieved the Investors in Volunteers accreditation standard back in 2018, which we're very pleased to achieve. And we're now looking, and have been looking for some time, at the potential for online volunteering, so that people who don't need to or don't wish to come to Dorchester can engage with the collections, volunteer with us, and enjoy the benefits of doing so without travelling. Just to point out here, I suppose, the importance of external funding to the service. We regularly apply for and benefit from grant aid, and two collections there that have been so supported: the Archive of Dame Elizabeth Frink, the internationally renowned sculptor, and the Harrison Hospital Archive, the Dorset Asylum, both of which are due to complete fairly shortly. I think March in one case, and probably 6 months out for the Frink collections. And then a couple of words just on the importance to us of the Dorset Archives Trust, our support charity, which allows us to fundraise and develop collections in ways we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. Case in point with the fundraising, we just before Christmas we were fortunate enough to raise £50,000 to purchase some manuscripts of Thomas Hardy, and £6,000 of that, the final push, if you like, was through a crowdfunding campaign led by the Dorset Archives Trust, which benefited from gift aid. And finally, a slide there which you won't be able to read because of the small print, which I look forward to circulating to you. It's a summary of our activities and work during the pandemic year 2020, which I hope will sort of demonstrate that whilst the doors were often closed on the building, much activity was going on behind the scenes. And that is that. Let me escape from that.
Good.
That was useful.
Thank you very much indeed, Sam. And just, you know, I hope members, even if those of you are seeing it for the second, even the third time, I hope it's still of value. And when I look at this, I always learn more. I can't help but learn more when I see sort of the range and the depth of what the Archive Service does. And Sam, I didn't see in there, and you're probably too modest to mention it. Can you just, they're probably in your head, you know, some of the awards, the recognition that the service has had? I mean, there was one literally about a couple of months ago. Can you just say a few bits on that?
Just last year, we were acknowledged that the National Archives do a roundup of sort of case studies of work going on around the country, and we were picked up for our digital preservation activity, particularly around the COVID response to COVID and the capture of information on various corporate websites, including both BCP and Dorset Council websites, that sort of demonstrates, I think I was saying earlier, the fragility of that material. So yes, that was really nice to receive earlier in the year. Okay, thank you. All right, what I'll do is I'll just invite any questions or comments anyone has. Just before we do, just have in mind, please, members, that we've got a meeting in May coming up. I think it's May. It's in our diaries, and that's where we're going to have you know, literally the meeting will be devoted to the forward-looking view about, you know, us as a board. Some key issues going forward that we need to think about, storage and policies and so on, and obviously receiving the consultants report and thinking, okay, what do we think, if anything, we're going to do with that piece of work? So that meeting will be devoted to that. So have that in mind, but still, any questions, comments now, very welcome. I'll come to Leslie first, by the way. I may not see all the hands. If I don't see anybody, I'm so sorry. Just wave your hand or just shout at me. I'm used to it in our council, believe me. But just yes, Leslie, yes. But Leslie, go first, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just two things that occurred to me when we were going through that. You talked about, oh, we're Dorset, Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. It suddenly struck me, and it never has before, I've never asked where the stuff is that when we used to be in Hampshire, Christchurch especially, Bournemouth as well. And somebody said to me once about a specific letter that we had thought we had in Christchurch. Oh, that'll be in Winchester. So would it?
Potentially, yes,
Oh.
because of the local government reorganisation in 1974.
Yes.
The vast bulk of Christchurch's historic records are here at the Dorset History Centre.
Yes.
Some do exist in Winchester. We work closely with Hampshire Archives, so we're aware of what they hold. They're aware of what we hold. But the actual borough archive and much other material relating to Christchurch is here.
Good. Yes, that's fine. Thank you very much. So I'll come and ask you about it at some point. Thank you.
Please do.
And don't imagine for a minute, Sam, that Leslie will forget, by the way. All right. That's okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions or any comments? Anyone at all? No. Okay. There'll be further chances in the meeting, but thank you, everyone. Thanks, Sam, for that. Really good intro, and I've seen it, and thank you so much. All right. So let's hop on then, please. That's a nice intro to our next meeting and the future-looking discussion. Let's go to item 7 then. Please, the budget monitoring report for 1920, and then the budget looking forward 21-22. Please, Sam.
Thank you. I won't. As you've had the report, I will just pick out a couple of points, if I may, and then take any questions. I think the first thing to say is perhaps in paragraphs 1 and 1.2, just that the service has been on a standstill budget now for 6 of the last 7 financial years, and in paragraph 2.1, I pointed out that although we don't have SIPFA information for the last full financial year, because Dorset Council no longer subscribes to SIPFA, we were always.
Excuse me, Sam. Sorry to interrupt you. Can everybody see the papers, by the way? We always have these meetings, and then I know the papers are sent, and we assume everyone can see them or so on.
Yes.
Would it help to screen share, or is that not necessary? Just somebody wave a hand if they want this screen shared. Otherwise, we'll carry on as we are. Okay. Yeah. Hi, Marion. Yeah. Okay. Actually, Sam, can we screen share? Let's walk this through. Is that possible?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've got the pack here. Let me just get to the relevant.
Okay.
Right. And it's there. Is that
good? That's
visible?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, just make it as big as you can, please, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah. That's I think that's as large as it will go.
Oh, good. That's good. All right.
Okay. So yes, sorry, I was down to this section here, just really pointing out, I suppose, that in paragraph 1.2 that the standstill budget position of the service, it's been standstill for 6 of the last 7 financial years. And under paragraph 2 there, which I'm just scrolling down to, although we don't have the SIPFA data for the last full financial year, we were always at that point, the last time it was referenced in the last meeting, the Joint Archive Service was the cheapest service, pounds per 1,000 population across the southwest and Hampshire, which I don't think there's any reason for that position to have changed. Nothing I'm aware of, although I don't have the information to hand. I was going to move on to section 2.4, just to perhaps reference the fact that during, like all public services, coronavirus has had its impact on us, on the service. It has caused a loss of income of around about £11,000, which isn't a huge sum of money, but it's still significant when you're dealing with a relatively small revenue position. I was then going to just moving quite quickly forward to section 5.3, which is around the reserve position. Members probably aware.
Just hold there. Sam, just hold this for a second. I'll take
Sorry.
questions as they come because they may relate to items you're just talking about. I think,
Okay.
Jill, you were first. Jill?
I was just going to say, Sam, as we know, we are in a position to claim for some of the issues that have been caused by COVID, and I just wondered if that 11,000 loss of income, I know we don't always get it all that we want from local government, from central government rather, but was a, or is a claim being processed for the loss of income is what I'm asking.
We're not able to do that. No, we did look closely at the Cultural Recovery Fund, the funding that was available through the Arts Council on the one hand and the National Lottery Heritage Fund on the other. But we were hoping to submit an application with Dilston for loss of income and future plans, but we couldn't make the criteria fit our particular service, unfortunately.
Okay,
so I think that's probably lost income there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And did I say hand from CH? Do forgive me. I can't. Person with the initial CH. Yeah.
CH,
Oh, that was you.
Councillor Haynes. It's really annoying if they put it as JH. Everybody know who it was. It's really annoying they do it like that. Sorry.
Okay. Unless there's any other questions, Sam, thank you. Carry on. Yeah.
Paragraph 5.3 was just to point out the reserve position. The service does have this relatively healthy reserve, which certain of you may not be fully aware has been built up over a period of quite a number of years now, probably the last 15 or so. Paragraph 5.4, they're just emphasising that should a capital project be approved in the future, should we be looking towards an extension to the building or some other form of provision of extra storage space, then those funds have been earmarked by the board back in 2014 for that purpose. That was all I was going to say within the body of the report. There were two appendices, which is a draft budget for next financial year, which I can just move forward to there if you like. So that's, as you see, standstill for the last, in keeping with the last 2 years. And then finally is just the second appendix, which is the summary there of the reserve position, 162,000 and 14 in the repairs and maintenance pot. That was all I was going to mention within this report.
Okay, fine, sir. So the reserves is kind of just, well, on the face of it, for the relative to the size of the service, is looking good. Is that what would your comment be about the reserves balance there, Sam? Healthy, very healthy, not enough? What would you say?
I think it's been we've been frugal, probably the right word, over a long period of time. We have opted to, in as much as we have controllable budget, we've opted to be prudent and careful, and it's built up over time, with one eye on the fact that it could be removed at any point. It could be reabsorbed by the two councils if they chose to do so. But equally, if we were in a position to proceed with a capital project, which is our hope, then it's a healthy sum to be able to put into that particular scheme.
Yeah, thank you. I think just the reason I mentioned that, members, is because Sam and I talked, and obviously it is quite a sort of a standout figure there. 162 plus 14. What have we got? 176 there. Which I think the respective finance directors in both our councils will probably look at. I'm sure they've noticed it and see it, and just we've got a choice as a board whether we resolutely defend the reserves being retained within the archive service, or in a sense we sort of have to think about that vis-a-vis others as well. But just to keep that so it's on our minds. Councillor Richard Biggs, please, and then Matt Hall. But Richard, please.
Yeah, I think while the reserves are healthy, I mean, we're well aware of the constraints that the service is operating on, and it needs to expand in some shape or form in the not too distant future. And, it is, that time when we run out of space is moving towards us, and it is concerning. And we will need those funds. I think must be quite depressing, I think, for Sam. To be head of service when year after year, we have these standstill budgets, and of course it is actually a cut because we've got increments, as is mentioned, staff increments, increase in business rates to accommodate, and that's coming out of that. So it is a cut to the service, and how we managed to keep going and offer such a wonderful service, I think, is real credit. to everyone involved. Personally, I would prefer to see a really small, modest increase to accommodate some of that, particularly as we can't recover any of that £11,000. But I appreciate that's probably a really big ask for other members. But I wouldn't sort of eye those reserves as saying because of that, we can keep there. So I'm guessing unless there's other people willing to stick the necks out for a small increase, I guess we're probably resigned to keeping it as a standstill yet again, which is rather regrettable, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. I think Councillor Hall was the next one. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, you did, Mohammed.
Okay.
Sam, that general reserve pot, is that invested in a way that we can make hay with it, as it were, or is it put in a way into a standard bank account in case you need quick access to it?
I suspect it's the latter, although perhaps our finance colleague could clarify that. I don't know if Paul's got any thoughts on how the reserve is invested.
Hi everyone. As far as I'm aware, I mean, I'll go away and ask a specific question, but as far as I'm aware, it will just be kept in with Dorset Council's general funds. So within the system, it will be earmarked as a separate amount. In terms of cash in bank accounts, it will be kept within the general council bank account. Does that answer your question, Councillor Hall?
Sort of, Paul. So does that mean with the cost of living, with inflation, actually the value of that reserve is going down, or is it in a way that we do get actually some interest on that?
I'll need to take that one away and find out and come back to you, if that's okay.
If you could, please, that would be really helpful. Thanks.
Will do.
Thank you, and that can be minuted, please. Yeah, that we have a sort of.
Can I just comment on that, because Paul has only just come to the Place Directorate from Children's Directorate literally this week, so it's a bit unfair to expect him to know all the ins and outs of it just yet.
Okay, welcome to Archives, Paul. Okay, Jill, I've got Jill next, and then Simon. So, Jill, was there something else you wanted to flag? You had your hand up.
No, I'll take mine down.
Okay, thank you. Simon Christopher, please.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Again, just to say I'm comfortable with the level of reserves, and I think it's entirely prudent given the reasonable requirements to hold those funds, and indeed in a cash form, as opposed to anything else at the moment in these uncertain times. Given the commitments that we may have, I believe is entirely appropriate and agree with Richard Biggs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon. Okay, the hands I've still got Jill's hand up and Matt's. Are they old hands, as we say in our place? Do you use the same term?
Yes,
Dorset?
they are. I've taken it down.
We've got to find another word for that, haven't we? Old hands. Is there anybody else whose hand I've not seen who wants to speak? Please do shout up or raise your hand. No? Okay, Matt, yes, please.
Yeah, sorry. Sam, on 2.4, you talk about, where is it? Remote orders for digital copies remain strong. Does that imply that you didn't lose during the pandemic, or have you actually seen an increase in demand?
I think it was an increase in demand because of the inability of people to come to site to take their own images of material in the search room. So what we tried to do was, wherever possible, where staff have been into the building, and we have a collections assistant whose role it is to produce those digital copies, whenever she's been able to come in, and indeed other members of staff have helped as well, is to provide copies as a form of remote access. As I say, in the absence of people being able to come to the History Centre itself.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Sam, if that's something that might actually stay in the long term, that demand.
Quite possibly. I mean, it kind of ties in with the whole digital agenda, I think, of making collections available remotely, and I hope will mitigate, in fact, the position of where we are located in terms of the building, people's ability to access collections wherever they may be, and geography ceases to be so much of a barrier in some instances, at least.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, Sam, what else is? Can you just scroll up, just scroll to the previous table, would you? Just as the last thing on this, and just it's where
Yes.
literally you've got the year by year, you know, the outturns. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Just go a bit further up. So this is what we're looking at, which is just as summarised. This is 1920, and then okay, 2021, 21, 22, and just looking at that, that's really useful for me. This summarised. This is where we are, and it's kind of it's kind of flatlined. So there's nothing. This must be the most undramatic budget I think we've seen, as all of our respective councils do our budgets. But on the other hand, is there anything, Sam, as a sort of a headline that you want to pick out from there that we've not already covered at all, or anything anybody wants to comment on?
I think the only thing I'd say is in terms of mitigating pressures on the budget, what we've been able to do is save significant funds on the energy expenditure within the building. That links back to the work that we've done in the repositories to render them passive. Yeah. So for 80%, our electricity costs now, we've been able to compute what it actually means. Our electricity bill for the last 12 months has been 80% less than it was for the previous 12 months. Okay. So that's mitigated some of those pressures that were mentioned. So I'm hoping that's really demonstrating the value of what's being done. Okay, got it. So well, congrats on that, I've got to say, because utility costs, and certainly in our council, it's one of those very sort of, it can go on unexamined, I've got to say, but an absolute fortune is spent on utilities of all sorts, and just, my congrats to you on paying attention to that. Matt, is that an old hand or a new hand?
Sorry.
It was an old hand. That's fine, good. Okay, thank you. Last call, anybody? Any questions on this agenda item? Any points? Otherwise, we'll move on. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Sam. Let's go on to then agenda item number 8, please. The service plan 2018 to 2021, the monitoring report. Sure. It's quite a chunky report.
Point of order, do we not need to vote?
Actually, forgive me. Actually, yes, we do. Thank you.
Chairman, I'm happy to propose that paper if there's somebody to second that for me, please.
Okay. I'm happy to second it as well. So, done. Okay. Proposed, Councillor Jill Haynes, seconded myself. Okay, that's fine. We're done. And thank you for the prompt. Yeah. Okay, good. Right. Let's go to then. Item number 8, please, then, the service plan. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. I was proposing to just pick up on a few highlights. It's obviously quite a chunky report, so certainly don't want to dwell on every element of it. If that's okay with you, I was just going to move down the body of the report and pick up on a couple of things, if that's all right. Good. Starting with 2.2, where are we? 2.2. Just as you rightly mentioned, Chairman, the consultancy report, which is due to issue its final report, I think, very shortly. So this is the final iteration, I think, of this current service plan. So it's reached the end of its 3-year period, and I'm looking forward very much, along with you, to examining what the findings are, and that next time we meet, there'll be a new basis on which to consider the future priorities of the service. So this is something of a holding operation, I suppose you could call it. Moving on to 2.4. Excuse me, Sam. Can I just ask on that? We've got our meeting timed in May. So is the timing of that still nicely aligned to when the consultants are due to finish? Time to put their report together. Time for us to receive the report. All members here consider it, and then come sort of, in a sense, well informed and ready to discuss in May. Is that nicely still synchronised? Is it? It should be. I mean, I had an email from them last week. The report is completed. I haven't seen it, but it is completed. So it's due to be shared with us very soon with yourselves. So yes, I mean, I don't know when you wanted to next meet, April or May, but yes, absolutely, it's ready there, and it should be plenty of time to sort of digest and consider. That's fine. Actually, just on that, forgive me, do we actually have the date in the diary? I can't recall. Is it fixed, no? Or okay, it's not yet fixed. So okay, Sam, we don't need to do it right now, but just literally, just work forwards from the report's ready. As soon as they're ready to issue it, then allow a bit of time for members to have a good read of it and so on, and then whenever's then appropriate for us to meet, to sure. Obviously not leaving it too late either. We want to sort of want to discuss as soon as we can. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Section 2.4, I've just tried to highlight what I consider to be the two kind of most pressing areas of work for us. They're both long-term projects, really. One is around the aforementioned pressure on space within the building. It's nearly 30 years old now. In fact, this year is its 30th anniversary. 56,000 box spaces, of which we have around 3,500 vacant slots. So you can understand the pressure on the space when we're currently accessioning up to, but not always, around about 1,000 a year of new material. The second one is around council records, which I've already touched on, but I think I just wanted to emphasise there the important, really important work I feel that we need to be getting on with, and are getting on with colleagues across both councils, around the corporate memory, the collection of those records, and transfer to the History Centre. So it's both are substantial pieces of work, but you know, I see signs of positive signs in both instances. I was then going to move on. I won't dwell on it, but just there's a section there. Section 4 is around the impact of COVID on the service, which of course has affected everybody in all kinds of different ways. But just to emphasise, I suppose, that where we possibly could, we opened the doors, we reopened the doors to the public. We were one of the very first services to reopen in July when it was possible to do so. Again, we reopened in November, and we hope to do so again as soon as current conditions allow it. I was then going to skip right forward, with your permission, through to section 6.
Fine, yeah.
Okay. Just to emphasise, I've already said it actually, but just to sort of reiterate the importance of that work that was undertaken on our repositories, and the fact that we're now largely a passive environment for protecting the materials, which is, I think, as a long-term benefit to, in terms of cost and you know, the green agenda is quite significant. Section 7, I've already said it really, but I've added some more detail there around the importance of those collections from the two councils and their predecessor councils, which I perhaps didn't mention. It's all very well talking about the two new unitaries, but it's those sovereign 9 councils that we're really talking about here, and those records coming in to join the records of those predecessors I mentioned. I was then going to, I also wanted to emphasise the importance of digital preservation within our work, which I touched on in the presentation. There it is. There's the summary in section 8 of the work around digital preservation, and in paragraph 8.3, I just wanted to again say how strongly I would recommend the adoption by BCP Council of Preservica through the Joint Archive Service as its mechanism for protecting digital content that it's generating. We set up a local government consortium model with 8 local government organisations involved, from as far afield as Staffordshire and Birmingham and West Sussex. Dorset has led on that, the Joint Archive Service. So there would be, it's actually a significant cost saving to all members, and it's relatively small sums of money, but I would strongly recommend that that BCP comes on board with that if at all possible.
Yeah, as noted, Sam. Thank you. Yeah,
thank you. Really just tail end stuff now. 9.3, I just wanted to emphasise how delighted and pleased we were to receive the transfer to the Dorset History Centre of the archive, the principal archives of Thomas Hardy, William Barnes and Sylvia Townsend Warner. Hardy, of course, the sort of literary icon of the county, and those archives now sit with us, managed by us, I should state, but clearly on deposit. They're not owned collections. A lot of scope for use and access in the future, and not to downplay the importance also of the collection of Beale's Bournemouth archives. Just before lockdown in March of last year, we were able to collect those records just before the receivership basically completed. Very quickly, section 10, I'm really pleased last year to sign off 2 memorandums of understanding with the universities of Bournemouth on the one hand and Exeter on the other. We're also talking to the Arts University Bournemouth around some collaborative work as well. So really pleased that that has moved forward. And finally, I've already touched on it, so I won't dwell on things, was the capital project position, which there is no capital project currently, but I do hope it's something that we will be able to consider more fully at the next board meeting. That was all I was going to say in terms of the report. The appendix to the report is again fairly substantial. It's the service plan in detail. I wasn't going to dwell on that, but I'm obviously very happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, and thank you again from me, Sam. Just for really sort of putting quite a lot, a huge amount of stuff together so sort of succinctly for us, and just I think I've read nearly all of it, not quite all of it, but no, thank you, really well expressed and a package for us. Members, any questions, any comments? So Leslie, please.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm really interested. It really brings it home to me as an ardent shopper that you've actually got Beale's archives. So I'm just trusting that won't show how much I've spent through the years, Sam.
Doubtful.
No, that's really sort of, really brings it home, doesn't it? What an archive is. Thanks.
Well, I'd also, just as a kind of an opportunity to promote what we do, I would, particularly to members in BCP, where there's so many large businesses. I mean, business archives is an area of interest for the service, and particularly with the sad demise of many of the high street names. If archives are available, if you become aware of collections at risk, we're very much dependent on eyes and ears in the community to tell us. So if you are aware of things that are sadly going into end of days, then we'd be very keen to know. Thank you.
Well, you don't just generalise this more. We are in a sort of an era where all sorts of private sector organisations, businesses or whatever are kind of either teetering or sadly they have gone. Beale's, in a sense, if I may, Sam, almost because it's big, you knew about it, and then okay, you were able to sort of quickly go in there. I can't think of the number of medium and smaller sized businesses who kind of, you didn't know them, they didn't know you, and potentially maybe some valuable things have been lost. And of course, you talked on it from the original 9 councils across the whole of Dorset coming into 2. And I think what's only really starting, in fact, is, shall we say, what's the right word? It's almost consolidation of things, whether it's buildings or records and so on and so forth. So we're looking at the, this is for May's meeting, I know, is going through maybe the few years ahead of an absolute spike in stuff, aren't we, really?
Potentially, yes.
And then it's an opportunity and it's a problem. So there's 2 sides to this.
It is, yes.
Yeah. It is. I just wondered, by the way, Leslie, you're going to scout me for this. I wonder if there's are there some old fashions you were thinking of in there as well? Back to the. I don't. Yes. We're expanding the definition of archives here.
Yes, and can I just say that when they were shutting, they were selling things, and so I've got 2 extremely nice mirrors and a very old suitcase that they used to have in the window. So I've got my own little archive over here.
There you go. All right. Okay. We've got, I think Simon was next. Simon, please.
Yes, if we're all doing reminiscing, I'm going to talk to you about the importance of keeping archives and change, and the fact the world does change. And it will only take about 90 seconds to tell you about this. In an earlier life, when I was at KPMG, I was involved in the audit of De Vilbiss, which at the time was part of Champion Spark Plugs of Illinois. And where we have technical change, and one day we will all have electric engines in our car, people will wonder what a spark plug was, and people will wonder what a petrol engine was. So therefore, all things that are relevant to the economy of Bournemouth 40, 50 years ago will be of interest to historians in the future, no doubt. So we shouldn't mock the past.
Yeah. There is something in that about us being quite far-sighted about things we take for granted now or whatever. Look, I know I don't need to see it to a group like this, but just literally what we might have to broaden the definition of what actually we keep, because these things are becoming either obsolete or being lost at a rapid pace now, aren't they? Thank you, Simon. I had CC. Forgive me, I don't know which councillor that is. CC.
That would be Simon Christopher.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, Councillor Christopher. Excuse me. All right. Okay. I've got 2 pop-ups there on the screen. Okay, forgive me. All right. Anybody else at all?
You've still got Simon and Leslie's hands up, but I think they're old ones.
Okay, old hands, that's fine.
Sorry,
Anything else?
Jill, that was the legacy hand.
Okay. All right, fine. Okay, any last call, please, on the service report, but otherwise, thank you very, very much, Sam. Okay, good. All right, let's go on to the next item then, please. What we've got is the...
And I think there were recommendations there that we have to go through.
Oh, right. Oh, thank you, Fiona. Okay, so can you pop the recommendations up, Sam? Can you get to that page just so we can all see them? There we go. Okay, so recommendation, I'll read them out for clarity. Recommendations that we endorse the implementation of the 18 to 21 service plan appended to the report as demonstrating the quality and value for money provided by the Joint Archive Service. Recommendation 2, with that we note the range of positive and innovative collections, learnings and engagement related work undertaken by the service. Recommendation 3, that we note that the relatively small size of the archive staffing structure means that any future budget reductions will have a direct and clear impact on the service's ability to deliver the service plan. And recommendation 4, that we support the archive service's role in identifying, transferring and preserving the records of the 9 predecessor authorities and the 2 new unitary councils. Okay. And what I'd add then is, please not to distort those, but obviously the way in which we implement those recommendations obviously will be talked about in May and subsequent meetings. But are we all happy to endorse those 4 recommendations, please? We don't need to all say aye, but please just shout if there's any concern, any sort of dissension from these recommendations.
No, agreed.
Okay, thank you, Jill. So Jill proposed if we need to do this, can I ask for, I can second, but can I have another seconder for them?
Happy to second them, please. Yeah.
Okay, and who's that, please?
Richard Biggs.
Thank you very much. Richard Biggs seconding. Good, good. Thank you, members. Okay, is that all right, Fiona?
Thank you, Chairman. That's fine. Yes.
Okay, lovely. All right, let's go on then, please, to, we've got item number 9 then, please. The Joint Archive Service review of fees and charges, which I suspect will be a quick one, but
it will, I promise.
Okay.
Let me just find it. There it is. Yes, this is something that needed to be brought to the board for your consideration. I'll be very, very quick. It hasn't come before you since 2016, although that's not to say that we just move into the body of the report. Not to say that the charges have not been amended and upwards by the service in the interim period. So yes, 2016 it was last considered. Section 2.1 there. I'm just going to say that we benchmark carefully against other services so that we make ourselves we have comparable charges to other places, and we do that across the southwest of England, but also with those named services there, with which we have a benchmarking relationship. So we're fairly confident that our charges are about right for the sort of services that we're providing. And the only other thing I was going to say was, obviously, increasingly now we're moving into the digital era, and the charges that we have listed in the appendix with suggested upward lifts reflect that there's more digital engagement through and charging therefore than there has been before. So the list of tariff, if you like, is in the appendix, which is I don't think there's anything I needed to bring to your attention. They are all, we feel, sort of judicious, kind of reasonable increases in fees, which will mean people aren't put off placing orders with us, but equally they're not getting the market's about right. Hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Sam. We can keep this one lighter, but is there any questions, please? Any comments anyone wants to make? Okay, again, Jill. Oh, sorry, it was Matt Hall. Excuse me.
Sorry,
Matt.
not me.
Okay. Matt, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Sam, just a point of clarification, please. In the appendices, tithe maps £12 plus postage and packaging to £15. Is that £15 plus postage and packaging, or including post and packaging?
Ooh, Gosh, sorry.
Right near the top, page 4.
I'm going to assume it's including postage and packing. Sorry. I need to double check though. I'll find out and get back to you if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Any others, please? No. Okay, that's fine. So I think again, Fiona, are we required to, as it were, vote on or confirm the
Yes,
proposal for fees
please,
and
'cause this-
charges?
Yes, it does need to be voted on, as this is going back to the executive
Okay.
bodies of the two councils.
Okay, fine. Well, again, I'll just take it just by exception. Any sort of any abstention, any sort of anyone against the proposal for the fees and charges, please? Matt, I'm assuming that's an old hand, please.
No, just that I'm quite happy to propose this.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Matt proposing. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to. Richard Biggs again.
Okay, Richard Biggs seconding. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, good. Okay, we've got through then item 9. Item 10, are there any urgent items at all, members?
No, there aren't any urgent items of business, Chairman.
Okay, then Jill, you've got a hand raised.
Only that I'd just like to say a really big thank you to Sam and all of his team for the work that they've put on, particularly during this time in COVID, because it would have been easy, like other organisations and other archives, just to close all the doors, and they haven't, and they've kept it going, and they've engaged with the volunteers, and they've just made a real effort. Particularly, you know, we managed to get that Hardy collection, which in another circumstances we might not have done. And I just think there's been some really excellent work going on in difficult circumstances. So I'd just like to say a big thank you.
And let me add to that, and please, in some way, can we have sort of minuted Jill's vote of thanks there, and me absolutely in full support of that as well. And you know, to say the least, the most difficult, the most extraordinary of circumstances, and you know, I'd love to think we're actually through the trough of it and we're coming up the other side now, but I hope I don't live to regret those words. But I think there is cause for optimism. But just great credit, Sam, to the team and the volunteers, everyone associated with the service, for what you've done. So thank you very much indeed from the board.
Forward that on, thank you.
Okay. We didn't have the urgent items. Okay, any exempt business at all? I don't think there is any.
No exempt business.
There's no, that's fine. Well, look, we're at the end of the agenda, but you know, can I just pop in like an AOB? I don't know what heading I'd fit this under. Is that, you know, hopefully this board carries on, and the members, you know, I do hope new members feel enthused by what they've seen and interested enough to stay on the board, because I think some board stability of the membership will be really excellent going forward. With this, what I'd ask is, just for the sort of final 10 minutes, is I'll kick off. Can we just have each person just literally saying who they are? And forgive me, I know some members know who each other are, but I think maybe some members don't. You know, we don't know each other, and we're board members going forward. And of course, if we were all in a room together, we'd all be doing introductions and saying, hi, I'm so and so, and you know, without being too cheesy, and this is my background and this is my interest in the archives. But you know, with all the awkwardness we have of doing this on a screen, can we just have a go at it ourselves? So just, you know, if I can kick off, you know, I'm Mohan, councillor since 15, but the point I think here is that you know, my interest in the archive service as a board member here is that you know, if I had to say one thing, the faster that we change going forward, whether it's firstly LGR and then secondly going through COVID and then thirdly all the transformations respectively in our councils, the more we change things and try to evolve, the more we've actually got to treasure what is special about the past and not lose it. And the risk is that we do lose things, and I do see this board as one of those, not the only one, but one of those things that's got to have an eye and a firm hand on protecting, respecting, safeguarding the things that we absolutely want to carry forward and keep and use for educational, for pleasure, for all sorts of other things. And that's anything. I could wax lyrical on this in the pub, but anyway, that's where I am with this. I mean, Jill, could you just say a little bit, and then just then we'll go to the Dorset councillors and then come to the BCP ones, yeah?
Yeah, sure. Councillor Jill Haynes, I've got the portfolio for customer and community services. However, I have been involved in the Archives Board from the days of Dorset County Council, because in those days it used to be under the adults portfolio, which I had there for a while, so I have been involved in this before. I'm just blown away by the work that Sam and the team do there, but on the money that they do it. And I think we just do need to work really closely together. I completely agree with everything you said, Man. We need to work very closely together to make sure that these really important artefacts are protected, and that it's actually a thing for the whole of Dorset, that we're keeping this, because as you say, things are moving so fast at the moment. It's very easy for important items to be lost in the changes, and that's not, so some of that is paper items, but I have also sort of museum worthy items that the museums can't keep, and it's things like that as we're moving forward. So I think it's all of that is quite a challenge when we're looking at our assets as a councils, and we're looking at the challenges that we have budgetary as a council. Sometimes these kind of things tend to be put a bit on the back burner, hence the standstill budget, and yet we shouldn't let it be in that position. So just a bit of passion from everybody on this, I think, would go a long way to encouraging people in our respective councils.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Could I ask you to sort of just introduce each of the Dorset, just invite each Dorset council just to say just a few words who they are, and just, you know, any statement, you know, that they want to make from the heart about, you know, the archives and what maybe their interest is in it.
Yeah, in no particular order. Councillor Matt Hall.
Good morning all, I'm Councillor Matt Hall. I've been a councillor since 2011 and represent Sherborne in the northwest of the county. I come at this with, I suppose, two angles. Firstly, I'm Chairman of Audit and Governance, so keeping an eye on the finances across the board. And I'm a graduate of history, so therefore my interest is, I think, is obvious. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we've got Councillor Simon Christopher.
Hello, good morning. Simon Christopher. I'm a chartered accountant. I'm also a specialist chartered tax advisor, but I'm not here to sell my services. I have been politically active in Dorset since the mid-1980s. I spent a number of years on the Audit and Governance Committee and Planning Committees. I'm now working very much as a troubleshooter in difficult areas for Dorset Council. I have a particular interest in history. Clearly, I have an interest in history because I live in a house that's over 300 years old, and we've lived in the same village as a family for over 100 years. And most people in the Marshwood Vale, which is the most rural ward in Dorset, I would argue, have a great interest in history, and that I'm hugely conscious of the Dorset Family History Society and the fact that we in the Marshwood Vale tend not to throw anything away if we think it's of historical use. So I can well relate to what we're doing here.
Okay.
Thank you, Simon. And Councillor Richard Biggs.
Good morning, everyone. Richard Biggs. I actually live exactly opposite the History Centre, so I look at it every day out my bedroom window. My last claim to fame, when I was a contracting electrician, my last job was actually on completion of the History Centre when it was built in '91. So I'm probably installed some of the stuff that's been ripped out now. But you know, I think they do a wonderful job. I'm passionate about the history of the town and the rest of Dorset, and I think I've been on this board, I guess, well over 10 years of Dorset County Council. Never left it really, but I've seen two archivists all done a fantastic job, and it's great to see that, you know, I think it will work better now we've got two councils to deal with rather than the three that were on there. That, you know, just made it even more complicated with trying to do the budgets with Bournemouth Pool and Dorset County Council. And everyone's who's been on there has always been passionate about it, and I think we all work together and put politics to one side. So great to see the new committees, etc. Thank you.
Okay, Richard, I think that's all my side.
Okay, that's everyone, is it? Just Marion Le Pedvin.
Thank you, Mohan. I was elected to Poole Council in 2011, and now BCP, of course. I've always been interested in local history and family history, genealogy, that sort of thing. But what really, I suppose, has brought it to a head was being elected mayor of Poole 2 years ago, and chairing the Charter Trustees and the responsibilities of the Charter Trustees for heritage has really sort of made it much more pertinent to me. So I'm very happy to be involved and hope to continue being a newbie.
Okay, thank you, Marion. Leslie.
Yes, thank you. Well, of course, competitive as I am, yes, my interest is very much spurred by having been the mayor of Christchurch for 3 years now, so more than Marion. And I think we go back, we're traceable further back than Poole, so that's my bit in. But of course, I mustn't forget that Christchurch was...
We're not in to run up with the ship end, Leslie.
Christchurch...
But you're not a Chancellor Mayor, I am.
Yeah, no, I'm a town council mayor, Marion, which is... Anyway, let's forget that. But no, Christchurch was managed by Dorset County, so we know it from Dorset County rather than the Bournemouth and Poole end. And yeah, I think it's absolutely vital work. I really do. And I can't claim to have any degrees in history. I did A-level history, but I think that was more about the 100 Years' War and things like that. So a bit out of this league. Anyway, that's me, Mohan.
Okay, the 100 Years' War, that is kind of like full council, really, isn't it? That is a pretty good preparation for that. Thanks a lot, Leslie. Great. Okay, I've bored everyone with my spiel. But then, Nigel, is Nigel with us? Nigel Hedges, he's a board member, but I've not. If so, he's been unusually quiet, which is very much not like him.
No, he hasn't joined the meeting this morning.
Right. Yes. All right. Okay. We've got. Okay. For next time, then Nigel will. He'll give an intro as well, and he's particularly keen in this area. So okay, we've got we'll welcome Nigel next time. But anyway, look, thank you everybody for doing that. Just look, but let's obviously we've got other people here. We've got Lisa, we've got Michael Spender. I don't want to miss out anybody else. I mean, Lisa, just please, Lisa Cotton, you want to just are you still with us, Lisa? You want to just say a few bits?
Here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm Lisa Cotton. I'm Head of Customer Services, Libraries and Archives for Dorset Council. I'm newly appointed to the role, so I only joined Dorset Council last month. So again, to extend my thanks to Sam and the team for everything they've put in today, because it's certainly something that I'm catching up with very quickly as a new member of the team. So thank you, Sam, and welcome to all board members.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. And Michael, can we pass over to you?
Thank you, Mohan. I'm Michael Spender. I'm Museum and Arts Manager at BCP Council, and I work closely with Sam because, of course, of the commonality between museums and archive services. And I just echo what a great job Sam does and how he manages to deliver such a great service within his standstill budget. I think that's really admirable.
Okay, and thank you, Michael. And also, Fiona, please, you're right to say a few words, because I think Fiona is just, I remember Fiona and I worked together from the police crime panel, and boy, there's a meeting to sort of support. Goodness me, I'm glad you're in a sense you're still with us, Fiona, and survived that experience for at least 4
Yes,
years when I was a member there. But you're still here. But Fiona, just say a few words, say hi to everybody, please, and just, absolutely value, your support. I hope you stay with us. So just say a few words.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I've just sort of moved roles since January into more of an overview and scrutiny role, and Joint Archives has come under that remit for me. So yes, you're stuck with me for a little while.
Okay, thank you. And have I missed anybody? I do apologise. Is anyone else?
Mehdi Bernard.
I'm sorry, Mehdi. Forgive me. Okay, your window's just popped up. Mehdi, please. Yeah, you say a few words. You're on mute, Mehdi.
Yeah, that's probably the first one. I'm Mehdi Bernard. I'm Head of Libraries and also Archive representative. The library service holds a lot of heritage collections, particularly for Bournemouth, but increasingly we're working with local historians in Christchurch, which is really exciting. And I work very closely with Sam and with Michael, looking at the officer role in how we can support archives. And like everybody else, I want to congratulate the Dorset History Centre team for all the fantastic work that they do.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mehdi, for that. Okay, is there anybody else, please, who we've not covered? And I'm sorry if I've overlooked someone. Okay, PA, please. Who's PA?
Hello, Mohan. That's me, Paul Ackroll.
Excuse me, Paul. Hello again. Yeah.
Councillor Haynes did say earlier briefly that I've just moved into this role, just my second week as finance representative. So I know we've said it many times already, but many thanks to Sam for a very informative presentation and journey this morning. I've learned a lot. Thanks very much.
Okay. And Paul, welcome to this, just from us. Okay. We hope you'll stay. Okay. Good. And last call, is there anybody else I've missed? I've not done very well here at all, have I? Is there anyone else I've missed out? I think that is everybody. Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, look, we're at the end of the meeting, everyone. Thank you for the intros at the end. I hope, sort of, albeit remotely, we're starting to sort of form a sense of team in this. And I must say, you know, I'm kind of, it's really nice to hear sort of people's personal sort of interest in this. It sounds like we've got more than just a kind of an overseeing board here, but people with actually sort of quite a bit of interest in this and some passion about it as well. Thank you for the bits of a business we've administered early. I think Sam, are you happy with where we've given the nods and the assents and the whatever that we needed? Yeah, I think it's all covered up.
Absolutely, yes, thank you. Agreed to everything.
Okay, next steps is looking forward to, if I say April, May, date to be fixed again, Sam, as soon as we reasonably can, while the consultants report is fresh, ready, but obviously when people have had time to disseminate it, and then let's think about the opportunities and the challenges we've got going forward, and let's have a good chow down with all of that. Okay. Last call, anybody? Is there anything final anybody wants to say or ask before we close? No. I'll just say many thanks to everybody. Thanks for your time. Okay. Stay safe. Okay. And have a great weekend. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Cheerio. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.